So the order of the day is to get some coffee. It's 5:30 a.m. and nothing's open here. I could just go to a Starbucks, but I'm going to Tinley Park because one, it lets me take Metra. Two, there's an interesting train station there. And three, the coffee shop got good reviews. From the River North neighborhood in downtown Chicago, we're picking up a Route 36 CTA bus bound for LaSalle Street Station at the south end of the loop. It serves as the inbound terminus for Metra trains on the Rock Island District, the commuter service from Joliet to Chicago, so named for the railroad born out of Illinois in the 19th century and popularized in American culture by the Alan Lomax recorded folk song bearing its name. We're making a reverse commute trip this morning on board the first trip outbound from downtown to Joliet. Though my plan is to alight at Tinley Park Station, acquire a coffee from the well-reviewed shop inside the historic suburban station, and return via an inbound local train. This was all part of the morning I left Chicago on Amtrak's westbound Borealis train, padding my morning activities and getting to experience one of Chicago's historic railroads that still serves commuters over 170 years after the railroad was established on this line. LaSalle Street Station, as it presently stands, was born out of the 1980s, the fifth station on this site, which it shares with the Chicago Stock Exchange. Located adjacent to L trains, the station features a bus transfer site below platform level and is an easy walk away from many downtown landmarks. Presently, only one Metra line serves this station, though for decades it saw trains of the New York Central and Rock Island Railroad's lines calling on the station to take passengers as far away as the East Coast and Colorado Springs. Ridership today is roughly a third of what it was a decade prior to this recording. Many in suburban Chicagoland have relocated their work sites out of downtown or have taken to working from home in recent years. Thus, the small station feels much more wide and spacious on this early Tuesday morning. A canopy extends over nearly all of the passenger waiting area and boarding platforms, and there is an indoor waiting area with a handful of seats and a ticketing window. Displays show schedules of upcoming departures at the station and switch over to display the route of outbound trains when it comes time for boarding. All local trains departing from LaSalle make 2 stops on Chicago's south side, and from there, select trips will serve the historic suburban line on the Beverly branch, but most trains, such as ours, make stops on the main line toward Blue Island, where the 2 branches reconvene and head toward Joliet. This is one of the more recently built Metra gallery cars, so we get to enjoy views from clear windows on the outbound trip. We'll get the classic green-tinted window treatment on the ride back in, but with the late spring sun pouring down on the east-facing window side, this ride will be primarily west-facing views. I find gallery cars to be comfortable and well-appointed enough for a commuter service. Power outlets in this car are only available on the lower level, so after getting an initial view from the upper level, I make my way to the lower level so I can keep my camera adequately charged for later rail fanning on Roosevelt Road.
Equipped with a used 2 emergency exit
This reverse commute service seems to have a small group of folks today making their way from the loop to the suburbs, with a fair number professionally dressed as if they're on their way to work. Unlike the North Star back in the Twin Cities, this is a real commuter service that sees inbound and outbound operations on a regular schedule throughout the day. 40 total round trips operate, with 2/3 running the entirety of the line to Joliet. Our stop will be roughly halfway down the line, calling on Tinley Park about 40 minutes after departing LaSalle, on time. At Blue Island, connections to the Metra electric line can be made via a short walk to the platform on the opposite side of our view. Folks at the Blue Island Vermont Street station get a nice horn show from our train today. Tree rows quickly consume the Rock Island right-of-way as we enter Chicagoland's vast array of suburban cities and villages. Aside from a couple hours overnight, this line has a good number of trains per day, certainly above American standards and well ahead of many metro areas. Most stations have some bus route connections, though many are more centered on personal vehicles, with park-and-ride lots being very common. There's plenty of inconsistencies between specific suburbs, but overall, Chicagoland has a fairly good cross-section of places where one could get a lot done in a day without the need to drive themselves around. Thank you. At over 55,000 residents, Tinley Park is a blend of classic Americana and sprawl. The station was constructed in 1890. Inbound trains serve its south side platform and outbound trains on the opposite side. Transit-oriented development flanks the station beyond its modestly sized parking lot. A newer Metra ticket machine was in operation today rather than the ticket booth inside the station, but it's good to see that they could staff it if they so needed to. Rebuilt 20 years ago, the station has some roadside charm, be it the highway or the railroad. Krema Coffee Roasters has been in business for what seems to be a moment inside the station. They serve me an excellent cup of coffee, heavy on the milk as I take it. The shop takes up the entirety of the station's interior, save the observation tower, which was unfortunately not open this morning. It's very easy to grab a drink and a bite to eat here before catching one's morning train. With plenty of power ports and easy trackside access, Krema Coffee was a great find, and Tinley Park was well worth the $5.50 to have a smooth ride down the Rock Island line on a beautiful spring day. It'll be that same $5.50 on the way back, and I don't consider it a waste at all, even if it was pretty nonsensical. Express train blew my hat off. Now I'm awake. For the ride back, we're aboard a former Milwaukee Road bi-level gallery car, built between 44 and 66 years ago. It's seen some refurbishments, but retains a lot of classic charm and a fairly comfortable set of seats. Metra gallery car restrooms are mostly without running water for hand washing these days, either as a safety measure, a means of cutting costs, or both, depending on who you ask. This one's toilet was not smelling very great, but I've experienced worse in my time. The Rock Island would be a great way of seeing new parts of Chicagoland, connecting to family while traveling in from out of town, commuting to places for any number of reasons, be it chores or leisure, and it could serve as a way of getting on board Amtrak services at Joliet for anyone who finds the south suburbs to be more convenient than the Loop. In the coming decades, the Beverly branch is being considered by the state of Illinois for full electrification and to potentially utilize Stadler-built electric multiple units as part of a refurbishment of the section of that line on the historic suburban branch. I'd like to have taken that line back inbound today, but it unfortunately didn't work out with the timing of my plans to take the Borealis later this morning. I also think that neighborhood deserves a closer look, maybe even a stay in one of the classic motels someday. Tom at Trains Are Awesome did a great video on the Beverly branch, which you can check out at the link above. That's going to do it for our ride today on the Rock Island District. Next week, we'll get out to my long-teased Kansas City Airport review for a look at the new airport terminal as padding on a fairly routine flight report back to the Twin Cities at the end of my winter trip this past January to California. For Father's Day, I'm headed up to Duluth, Minnesota to ride the North Shore Scenic Railroad's Duluth Zephyr excursion train. Just some old coaches for fun as an excuse to get out of town. Hey, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.